Welcome everybody to the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. So today's pick a card reading, we're calling upon the celestial bodies of Venus and Mars, sort of astrologically, or potentially, if you prefer, the members of the Greek or Roman pantheon, Venus and Mars, Aphrodite and Aries, whatever particular names you like to give them. So it's really the energies of the divine feminine and divine masculine in broad terms, the energies of love, connection, beauty, harmony versus self-empowerment, ambition, drive, and sometimes conflict. How they want to talk to you separately, the messages they want to bring to you in your life about those aspects of your life, and also about how those two energies connect and how to get the balance in a way that you will be happy with and is for your highest good. So we're going to start the reading looking at the kind of key energies around that for you, what your sort of energy connecting to Venus and Mars is, and the sort of alchemy and archetypes that creates. Then we're going to use tarot to ask Venus to talk specifically to you about her energy, Mars to talk specifically to you about his, and I'm using his and her very broadly here. It really is divine feminine and masculine I'm talking about, not gender identity. And we'll then ask Spirit to sort of mediate between the two and bring the best harmony and give you advice about how to do that in your life. So hopefully it's going to be a bit of fun and also enlightening. I chose the Lovers cards from the various tarot decks that you can choose from for this particular set of readings, because I felt of all the major arcana cards, it probably best typified the energy of this reading, the connection of the two elements. You could potentially also choose the Temperance card, but I just felt two figures being in it and the two voices that we're calling upon and the connection between them and the hope for harmony between them is best typified by the Lovers card. It doesn't necessarily mean it's about romantic love, though this may well come up in the reading. It's more about connection. Anybody familiar with tarot will know that the Lovers card can also be about friendship and other sorts of things. It can even be your own alchemical marriage within yourself of your divine masculine and feminine. So hopefully that's a good choice that will help you resonate to the right reading. I'll put down the numbers as I do to help for anybody who likes to see the numbers and resonates to those. But for pile 1, we have the Lovers card here from the White Fly Tarot. For pile 2, we have the Lovers card from the Rainbow Moon Tarot. For pile 3, we have the Lovers card from the Crystal Unity Tarot. And from pile 4, we have the Lovers card from the Wisdom of the Unknown Tarot. So if you're familiar with these tarot decks, that might help you choose. The imagery might help you choose. Whatever way works for you, pause the video certainly and meditate on it if that helps you tune into the right reading. And if you want to go to more than one reading, by all means do so. It may be that your main messages from Venus are in one and from Mars in another. You do you, whatever actually works for you to get the messages that you are seeking today. I hope you enjoy the reading or readings. When you know which one or ones you want to go to, the timestamps are in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome pile 1 to your reading. So these cards are Venus, these cards are Mars. We will have some cards in the middle to look at how that's operating for you in terms of a connection. But I think looking at the energies around this and the messages that I think on the first pass that Venus and Mars want to bring to you, there is a fairly obvious connection actually. Over here with Venus, we have the issue about self-esteem, standing in your own truth and knowing the right choices for you. So Venus in the areas of love, beauty and harmony wants to talk to you about that, wants to make sure with Amaterasu, I always find it hard to pronounce her name, that you are looking towards your self-esteem and you understand your own light. And there is a story behind this particular goddess which indicates that there can be trickery around that. There can be people who are potentially trying to steal your light, your beauty, your sense of self, your sense of creativity, or potentially even in the realm of love, it could be that there is a rival for the affections of someone you care about. So you will know whether something like that is in place, but it may just be about you standing up for and really living into the truth of who you are for your love nature and for harmony, and at what cost do you have peace. And we will get over to that over there when Mars starts to talk to you. because here we also have Thoth that is bringing you wisdom. So Venus is sending you wisdom to make the right sort of decision about how do you follow your love nature, how do you seek harmony, what is the right balance for you. Because it looks as though with the Sea Beacon Fairy that there is an opportunity or an offer or a situation at the moment that it's hard to know if it's what it seems. It looks almost like the easy way out, the answer to your prayers, but the Sea Beacon Fairy can be that. She can also be a bit like the siren drawing the sailors to the rocks. So it's a little bit unknown still. And what I think Venus is trying to say to you is that you use your wisdom to know, do not make choices until you get more information, whether this is about a new love or whether it is about other issues entirely around harmony and the people that you're with. There is a potential way of dealing with things, but it may not be the right one. Now, I think that connects very much. I think Venus and Mars are really in harmony at the moment in talking to you, because over here we have a Sirens for Mars energy, so renewal, the opportunity to either renew a love relationship, renew a sense of yourself in the world and your ambition, really come back after a battle of some sort. But you don't want to battle. Mars is saying your actual energy is not about conflict. You don't respond to the Mars energy of wanting to go out into battle and so forth. With the Fairy of the Highlands, you sometimes choose peace over standing up for yourself or a battle. And so I think Mars is saying that's right. There is some form of competition around who you are in the world and how you love in the world. And you may want to find the easy conciliatory way out, but it is probably time to wait, learn more and stand up for yourself. And we have the Archangel Ariel here talking about being the guardian of the earth. So a sense of grounding that and claiming what is yours. So I do very much feel with the two energies here that Venus and Mars are talking in a high degree of harmony about being careful and making sure that you make a decision, whether it's in your love life, whether it's in your career, and it could be either, whether it's in friendships, whether it's in some sort of cause, to not just say, I don't really want to battle. If there is a way offered to me, I will take that if that's harmonious, because it may in fact cost your self-esteem and it may make you hard to renew. So I think that they want to talk to you about balancing your peaceful nature with a little bit more drive and your loving and caring nature with making sure that you don't sacrifice too much for someone else. So I do think if you've come to the right reading, there's something going on in your life where you are really trying to balance how much you push your viewpoint compared to that of others and what that outcome would be. And there is a sense in this that you are still waiting on some information that will help you ground and make the decision about, is this conciliatory way the way to go, or do I need to now stand up and be clearer for my self-esteem and my renewal? So it will be interesting to see what the archetypal energy is around you as well, but that is balancing out these two. So we have High Roller, okay, and Past Life, the Challenger, and the Priest, okay. So it's actually really interesting that they fell in that kind of way. This does look to me as though there is some form of competition around you. I think the High Roller is in fact another person in this scenario. Or it may be that there is someone who is asking you, particularly around your love nature, because it's fallen on this thing, to take a bit of a risk. But there's a challenger or somebody else that's interested in this. And as I say, it could be around a love relationship, it could be around a friendship, it could just be around your position in terms of harmony with others, with Venus, or even potentially a challenger to something that you are doing that is of beauty and of creativity. But either way, there is an energy of, do I take the risk and can I take on the challenge in some way? Though, as I say, you're with Past Life and the Priest here, with your Mars energy, you are not someone who wants to just go into a battle. You're someone who's very highly evolved spiritually. And if you can hear that knocking, I do apologize. I think it's got to do with some renovations nearby. Hopefully it's not disturbing this too much. But as I say, around here with your sort of Mars energy, it's very spiritual. You may, in fact, have had a past life as a priest or some form of spiritual leader. And so this is why you tilt towards conciliation, you tilt towards negotiation, you tilt towards harmony, more than you do towards fighting. But the interesting thing is that I think it's in the realm of love now that the battle is, and where things are not clear. And that is why Mars is saying, I understand where you come from, but you may actually have to be a little bit more assertive and a little bit more about who you are, rather than just following the lead of something that seems attractive, easy, but may not be wise. Okay, so that's interesting. Let's get them to talk directly to you with tarot. So we're going to start with Venus. So we're going to ask Venus to talk to you about her position on this and in general on this part of your life. So I'm very much going to be looking at the tarot here for what the issues are and the concerns of Venus are. Not everything in your life, but how things impact on your sense of love, beauty, and harmony. If you can hear that knocking, I do apologise again. Okay, so Venus is definitely saying, for most of the people who've come to this, there is something about love, something about a relationship. And I think for most it's a romantic relationship. As I say, the lovers doesn't have to be that. So it may be a friendship or something within a group and so forth. Or it may even be about balancing within in your own self-love with the self-esteem. But in any case, Venus is saying something around a relationship, your internal relationship with yourself, or a relationship that is around you, is starting to affect your self-esteem with the star reversed. This is why she sent that goddess, which is the goddess to remind you that you are beautiful and that you are attractive and you are worthy of love and all of those sort of things, to open up that wisdom again that you have to know that beyond whatever these circumstances are. I feel as though there's someone around you coming up as the Knight of Wands reversed and the Seven of Swords reversed who is unreliable. So this is this high roller energy. That's why I felt like that wasn't your archetype. It was more an archetype coming into your energy as opposed to your archetype being more spiritually aligned. And I think she wants you to know that you can start again in some way once you know what you really want and what you can stand up for. It could be to resolve this. This could also be an energy of a challenger around somebody that you're interested in. If that's the case, it suggests that you could still restart that connection and make it more grounded if you're prepared to stand up for yourself. Or it could be that you can start over, letting that energy go. If this is an energy where your self-esteem has been affected by someone who is always giving you a sweet story but never following through, and may even be affecting your self-esteem, challenging your self-esteem, wanting to be boss, which could be the case with the Knight of Wands reversed, then I think that she would be saying by letting that go, you let something more grounded come in. But she's definitely saying that your self-love is being affected and your self-esteem is being affected by an energy that's not positive. So it's fairly consistent here, and it is a call to you to remember your inner beauty and to turn the star around and to start to claim your space, claim your home, claim your position, whatever it might be. Okay, so she's pretty clear that she thinks there's an energy around you need to overcome in some way, not to be beguiled by. Let's see what Mars wants to say to you. Okay, so Mars is saying, and Mars, it's very consistent actually with the way these cards came out. Mars is saying that you find it very troubling to go through major change, revolution, even the renewal energy that Osiris is talking about here. You are someone who prefers the incremental change, the conciliation and so forth. There's a certain amount of nervous anxiety that comes for you. But Mars is saying you are stronger than you think you are, that you have actually really underestimated not only your lovability, but also your strength for battle. It's like at some point, and potentially in a past life, because you took a very, very spiritual high ground, you sort of forgot that you also have those muscles within you to stand up when you need to and so forth. It feels as though, therefore, that this past life was likely to be quite sort of separate, sort of maybe monastic, not sort of in the day-to-day world. Whereas I feel now if you have spirituality, it's more incorporated in your general life. You're not necessarily going off being a priest or something. You are in the web of life, Mars is saying, and as such, you need to reclaim your strength. That will also help balance out sort of relationship issues for you and so forth, so that you don't put others first when they are not reciprocating on some level. But you do need to get more comfortable with change. And I think Mars is saying it's okay to just gradually dissolve that which isn't working, with the Three of Pentacles reverse and then the Tower reverse. The Tower reverse is kind of about incremental change. Mars is saying this is not going to require you to throw everything up in your life. You can change things step by step. And each step that you stand up for yourself is a step in the right direction and takes you back to who you truly are, which is this nurturing, caring, loving person. So this is the issue for you, because Mars is saying it's lovely that you care and nurture for others, and it comes from this very deep spiritual sense that you've had. And in many cases, your self-esteem has been connected to that loving, caring nature, but it's like you've given it to people that it's not worthy of. Or you're in a scenario where it's just not worthy of what you can bring. Remember your strength. Stand up for who you are. Remember that you are this very strong, nurturing figure. And I think it's why I get a sense that Mars and Venus are working very much in harmony here. They aren't, sometimes they battle a bit because they're not opposites, but they are sort of having different sort of motives. Like one is about harmony and connection, and one is about self-empowerment and ambition and drive. But I think that Mars here has recognized that your breadth of caring for others is the issue here, and it's made you step back from the more ambitious side, and is saying you can be ambitious to be this person, but at the moment you're giving the energy to people that don't deserve it. Okay, so let's ask what Spirit thinks. I mean, I think that Spirit will be reasonably happy with the fact that Venus and Mars are quite in agreement at the moment, because I suspect that we won't find that in every reading. So let's just pull 3 cards just for Spirit's advice before we start to look at how this is working in very practical terms in your life. Okay, so Spirit is saying the answer to this lies in your mind, interestingly enough. You are a very emotionally connected person and very spiritual, but Spirit is saying there is just a thought process as a strategy that can bring this together. If you're hearing both Venus and Mars, because they're not arguing with each other in this case, you can actually take the lead, and you can cut through where communication has not been clear. You can cut through where things are not being honest with you. And you can re-articulate what it would be to be happy for you, because at the moment Spirit is saying Venus and Mars are right. The net impact of this is that you are affecting your self-esteem, your connection with others, your nurturing thing, all the things that give you emotional sustenance are kind of being dissipated. You have a very big store of it. And I think Spirit is saying that's one of the issues, that because you are so caring, because you are so spiritual, you've always had such a big heart and such a big store of emotion. It's been a kind of like gradual thing to wear this down. So I feel like this person or this energy, either it's been in a number of relationships, or it's this energy has gradually worn you down because you had such a store. But Spirit is saying now you're getting near the end of that. That's why Venus and Mars are right. You need to recalibrate, stand up for what you want, so that you can bring back the happiness and recharge your batteries. And Spirit is saying you can do that relatively quickly. It's a change of attitude. That's really all that's required. Okay, so let's use the Heart Code Oracles and see what Venus and Mars have to say about relationships, about career, and about your lifestyle. So we're going to pull 1 card for each for Venus and Mars on this. So it'll be very interesting. We'll start with relationships to see the energies they want you to focus on in that space of your life. So Venus says, think about validation. And I think it is very much like, are you giving the power of validation to somebody else? You should be validating yourself, because your sense of love, harmony, and beauty is profound. Okay, and Mars wants to talk about jealousy. Okay, Mars says, yeah, it is, and it's beautiful and it's wonderful, but you're dealing with jealous, competitive energy around you. In fact, the degree of your beauty and caring may in fact be drawing some of this energy to you. you need to know some of the people around you are not working in your best interest because they're jealous of you, because they aren't as beautiful, aren't as caring, and so forth. And that's where you need to stand up for yourself. That's where you need to be clear about your boundaries and who you are. People can't take from you if you're clear about that. Okay, so let's see what Venus and Mars have to say about career things. So this is more Mars's territory, though Mars has had a strong opinion about your relationships. Let's see what they want to say about career and who you are in the world and that kind of Mars type of energy. So Venus is saying procrastination is something to think about. Are you putting things off or to the side? Or in fact, are you so much for love that you're not actually thinking about, again, who you are? And maybe it's also coming into your work that you could do more in terms of sort of becoming a leader if you owned your own sense of self a bit more. But it's like you want harmony. You don't necessarily want to sort of go into that kind of battle. And that can cause procrastination. Mars says have more confidence. You should have more confidence. You have everything that you need. So certainly if any of these relationship things are coming up in your workplace and it's more about that than it is about love, then Mars is saying you've got everything you need. You know, people are jealous of you relationship-wise, and you should have this confidence, and you actually exude the confidence. It's just that underneath you're sort of wondering about it and you're procrastinating where you could move forward. So I think Mars is getting a little bit frustrated there. Just wants to make sure that you get everything that you know is owed to you in your life. So let's have a look at lifestyle. Let's see what each one to say to you about lifestyle. So, okay, so Venus is pointing out there's some pattern in your lifestyle. So I think this is why I have a feeling that maybe this sort of thing has happened incrementally. You've maybe had a number of people drawing on your energy and your kindness and not reciprocating. So she's asking you to think about the pattern, how that occurs. And Mars says challenge. You need to take the challenge up. So this is very, very consistent. Mars, of course, will be a bit more insistent than Venus just by nature of, you know, get out there and take up the challenge, take up the battle, because that's what Mars's energy really is. But here it's more a little bit more introspective. What can you do? Don't procrastinate, see the patterns and so forth. Don't look for validation in relationships. And Mars is saying, yep, and stand up for yourself and take on the challenge because you get everything you need. So it's sort of, Mars will always be a little bit more pushy about this. You need to find the balance. But we'll also ask, using astrology, for Spirit's advice on the balance. So we're just going to sort of pull out some astrology cards between it to see what Spirit has to say about the energies around you for getting this balance right. So we have Sagittarius, Mercury, and air. So air's going back. Spirit is very keen on you thinking this through. Absolutely, Spirit thinks you have a very, very sharp mind and you are more than capable of coming up with the answers to this. It's just a matter of allowing yourself to think it through, not feeling that that's being cold in some way. You're never going to be someone who's cold, but you do need at this point to get that kind of detachment that air gives. You also need to have that sense of freedom and dynamism that Sagittarius brings. It'll never be out of balance because it's the tarot card is temperance with it. So Sagittarius, in terms of sort of past life, priest, religion, spirituality, is very evolved, but it is also moving forward, and that picks up what Mars is talking about. And then it's about communication. It's about talking, which is also very much an air thing. You can negotiate to some extent because you have a natural negotiation ability. It's just, I think that Mars might be right, that there are some people that you kind of need to make an assessment about cutting away from whenever you can, and that may be easier said than done depending upon what it is, but certainly use your very, very sharp mind and your communication skills. That's why we've got the King of Swords there, to bring things into balance both philosophically and also sort of spiritually with Sagittarius. I'm also going to use the Astro Dice, and I'm just going to roll twice for some other energy that Venus and Mars might think, and the areas in your life where it could be helpful. So firstly, we have Capricorn. So that is taking on the powers of the world. That tilts a bit towards Mars, I have to say. But then we have the Moon, which tilts towards Venus. So there is a sense here that you are well balanced, and this is in the 7th house around relationships. See, one of the things I think that Venus and Mars are saying to you is that genius, you have a kind of genius for personal relationships. It's just gone on to overdrive and you've forgotten yourself. But remembering, getting that kind of grounding with Capricorn, and that helps your own emotions, which will also help you do what you want to do in the world, which is actually be a figure of peace and harmony. Okay, so one more roll of dice. And we've got Leo, so that's it. It's you being a little bit more dramatic and standing up for yourself. We've got Saturn, and we've got the third house. Yeah, it's all about communication. It's bringing things into a philosophy. It's taking your wisdom from the past and the structure of things, and it's actually showing your hand a bit more. Because it's interesting, Saturn in Leo, could dim your sense of presenting yourself, or make you feel that it's sort of a little bit unworthy to do that. But with the third house, you are meant to communicate something, because there's something structural and clear about wise about what you can bring to the table. So don't limit your fire, I think is what that's saying. Okay, so let's finish off with some spiritual energy for you as well. So we're going to look firstly at kind of areas where you can heal yourself. Then we're going to use a particular deck that has sort of astrology and sacred symbols and a range of energies like that in it, before we finish off with the Astro Chakra cards to bring it together for you. So where are there areas where Venus and Mars think that healing would be helpful for you? Pay attention to signs. And procrastination. Okay, so Venus and Mars agree that you procrastinate a bit much, just a little bit of tough love here for you, pile one. Don't procrastinate. Make your decision. Use that excellent mind that you have and move forward. You have everything you need in your kit bag. Pay attention to the signs. That might help you with timing. If the procrastination is coming from feeling like, is this the right time? When can I do it? Remembering the sea beacon fairy there, that sort of sense of, I'm not sure about the options. Am I going to Nirvana, or am I going to crash on the rocks? That kind of feeling. There will be signs sent to you. Remember that you're very spiritually attuned. So pay attention to that and use the signs as an impetus, so that you don't keep stalling on claiming your self-esteem, claiming your renewal, claiming your place in a bit of a contested environment. Okay. Let's see what the White Owl Mystic Arcana has for you. Pisces, June Moon, and Earth. So I think a message here for you, a spiritual message here for you, is that you have more grounded and more developed than you think. And certainly from what Venus was saying, you can sort of replenish, renew, pick up that kind of renewal energy of something that is very practical. If some of this is around creative activities that you do and competition there, you certainly have the grounding with Earth, and you have the spiritual connection with Pisces. You may have Pisces strongly in your chart. It could be your sun, your moon, your rising, or you may have a number of planets there. But otherwise, it's that energy of Pisces that is about the connection to the spiritual. And the June moon is meant to be enjoying something. So I do feel, picking up the jealousy that Mars wanted to talk to you about, I think you have achieved something. You've achieved a relationship. You've achieved something in your career. You've achieved something creative. And now there is a challenge because of that. And so Spirit is saying you should get what you deserve, and it is good. You are at a point where you should be enjoying that, but you can only do it if you stop being so tender-hearted and stand up for yourself. So it really is tilting a bit towards Mars, but with moderation. You're always going to be someone who has harmony. Okay, so let's just see through Spirit with the Astro Chakra cards what final messages can bring together what Venus and Mars wanted to say to you today, pile one. Okay, throat chakra. Throat chakra, it's definitely about Mercury communication. And solar plexus, and about your self-esteem and regaining your power. So when we have two throat chakra cards, that means that these two planets, it's like they are conjunct. So Neptune with inspiration about exploring your dreams, and Saturn with discipline about the authority of what you do. There is something about owning your dreams here, definitely. And it very much interests me that Pisces feels Neptunian to me. And then we have the Saturn kind of concept here around Leo. So I feel with the Astro Dice, I feel like this is saying that there is a Piscean energy to how you understand the world and the sort of psychic connection that you have, but then bringing things into being so that you can move to your own personal power is also about standing in more Leonian, more fiery energy, and being prepared to sort of say, this is me, and that's, take it or leave it almost. That brings the Mars energies in. Mars really likes this. Mars wants you to do that because Mars is actually turning up in your solar plexus chakra. Mars wants you to have passion for yourself and for your life and for your love, whatever this is about. So I do think that Venus and Mars are working very much in harmony here because they recognize that you probably err more towards the Venusian side of things, and that is beautiful and lovely and makes you very deserving of the sort of rewards. But sometimes you just need to tilt a bit more towards Mars and do the, stand up for yourself and be clear. And don't doubt your communication skills. You can do it with a great deal of grace and intelligence and win through that rather than any kind of brute force. So Pole 1, I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pole 2, to your reading. So this is Venus talking to you. This is Mars. So just to try and get a sense about the key sort of themes that are going on at the moment that they want to talk to you about. And this is really interesting because the cards that were intuitively pulled here for your Venus side, we got Kuan Yin from 2 different decks. So that sort of triples down, if you ask me, on the energy that Venus is seeing in you and wants to talk to you about. So to start with Venus, she is saying, because we have the Fairy of the Green World here, which is about environmental concerns, it's about the earth, it's about caring for others on that very natural level. I think she's talking to you about something in that space. It could be for you to have compassion for yourself, and there could be an energy of that, which I'll get to, by reconnecting with the earth. So if you are getting over a sort of heartache or something that didn't work out, then I think she would be saying have compassion with yourself, and you are someone who would very much benefit from having a garden, getting out into nature. But it could also be, if that hasn't occurred, that you have a much broader sort of brush to what you're trying to do, and it is about compassion for the world. So if that's the case, Venus is very much behind your caring about the world, your love for the world, your love for environmental causes, the compassion and so forth that you bring to it, and really celebrating, I think, the fact that it comes from such a deep and genuine level. It may be, if that's the case, given what Mars wants to talk to you about, that you have come across others who have been supposedly in a similar sort of line and having similar sorts of beliefs, but maybe weren't what they appeared. Because there's something over here with Mars. Mars is saying that you have a broken heart to mend. Now, it could literally be about having had a relationship that didn't work. And as I say, this might be self-compassion and getting back to nature and getting back to who you are at a core. But it could also be that there is something that, as I say, that's disappointed you. So the broken heart is not so much about a personal relationship, but maybe about your sort of position in the world, the cause that you're doing and so forth, particularly if Mars is interested in it, to be frank, because Mars is most likely to be interested in broken hearts if it comes down to something that has to do with your self-empowerment, your career, your ambition and so forth. And Mars is interesting here because Mars would normally say, get out and just fight. That's like Mars's default thing is like, just go for it. But Mars is saying, actually, you can take some time out. So Mars is agreeing with Venus over here, if that's the case. It's saying, get back to nature, do what brings you joy, Mars is saying, because you have the skill to do whatever it is you need. If this is mending something in your career or a cause that you're doing, you will have the skill with Lug here to do that. Do not doubt yourself. You can take a little bit of time out. You can sort of lick your wounds in a way and get over it. And Venus is saying, absolutely, have some compassion for yourself. Get back into the natural world. That's how you're going to find joy. That's how you will mend this broken heart. And if Mars is actually being uncharacteristically caring about an actual broken heart from a relationship, I think he's saying that once you give yourself some time out, you have the skill to come back to happiness. You have the skill to come back to a sense of self-empowerment and moving forward and being able to pick yourself up and move forward. So he's saying, I agree over here with Venus. I think that really your nature is part of what will actually help you here. It's not like you have to do a battle. It's like you have to find the joy in yourself again. So I think it's one of those two things. It's either a cause or a job or something like that hasn't quite worked out to be what it appeared to be, and you need to kind of get back to first principles and how you can connect to your very caring nature, or it is a relationship. But either way, they're kind of agreeing with each other, which is interesting. I sort of expect in these readings for them to argue a bit, but so far there's been quite a bit of agreement. Let's see how archetypally this is playing out in the balance of the energies. So we have Visionary and Aquarius. And we have the Rebel and the Citizen. Now this is really interesting just because of where they fell, and there's an intentionality of just intuitively pulling and let them fall where they will. This side with the Venusian energy would not normally be what you would think you would get the Rebel archetype. You would be more likely to get it over in Mars. And the Citizen energy, which is about compassion, caring, connection, doing the right thing, you'd kind of expect a little bit more on Venus than the sort of more bolshy, I'm going to get into it type of Mars energy. So I think that part of what Venus and Mars are saying to you at the moment is you are well balanced. You can be a rebel for a cause that you have great compassion in, and you can be very responsible in how you mend things that haven't worked, in bringing your skill and bringing joy to others. So I think there's a kind of a sense of congratulations here. And they're saying one of the reasons you can is that you're a little bit detached. For all that you are compassionate, you have this sort of skill, this ability to be a visionary, so see the impact, including the sort of emotional impact on others, but at a much more transpersonal, higher level and spiritual level. So it's almost like I think they're saying your higher self is very tuned into you and can see the bigger weave and can see how you can balance this compassion with a cause and bring your skill into the space of Mars, so that you don't have to dim this sort of Venusian energy of caring and love by just being in the battle. So Mars is pretty comfortable with you, in a sense, doing the right thing and understanding the environment you're in. And Venus is pretty comfortable with a certain degree of rebellion that you have to make sure that your cause is followed, or the love that you have is legitimate and strong. So I think there's a nice harmony operating, but it's because of your spiritual development and your spiritual detachment. Okay, so let's use the tarot and let's ask for a bit more detail. So we're firstly going to ask Venus to talk directly to you about these sort of energies and what she wants to say. Then we're going to ask Mars, and then we'll get Spirit to mediate if mediation is necessary. So Venus. Okay, Venus is saying a lot of this does have to do with belief. This is why the Visionary in Aquarius is important here. Venus is saying that there has been something that has rocked your world a bit about belief. It could be in a relationship, hence the mend a broken heart, but it could also be, as I say, around a cause or a belief or the people that you've been dealing with. With the Two of Daggers there as well too, and the Ace of Daggers, it's like moving, she's saying move back to first principles. It's like 3, 2, 1, and 3 needs to be released because it's reversed. So the disappointment needs to be released and get back to nature, get back to the first principles of what you do. There are choices that you can make that get you back on course for what you're trying to do, whether it's a relationship, friendship, love, or whether it is a cause. And I think for many of you, it's like a cause or a job or something like that. So she is saying that it's a simplification process. And that's why getting back to nature is what's going to be helpful for you, because that will re-clarify things. There are still people who are like you and will believe in what you're doing, And it may be that you've kind of lost sight of those in the midst of some sort of debate. But once you've simplified, you'll move forward very fast. And this balance that you have, she says, with the Chariot, it's balancing the head and the heart, it's balancing the Venus and Mars, it's balancing all of that. That will help you get back to first principles and start again. So there's a starting again feeling around this about whatever it is. I think that's partly why we had that very environmental, natural thing. It's like getting back, as I say, to first principles, to the core of something, to the nature of something, your own nature and the nature that is around you in some way. But she is saying you need to simplify. You know, cut out anything that isn't necessary. Go into your heart with that compassion, because that will tell you what you need to do. Okay, so what does Mars want to say? So Mars is having a little bit of an argument with Venus here, I have to say. It's not a major one, but it's just a little bit of an argument. We've got two Warden cards in this deck. That's kings, effectively. But this deck is sort of gender neutral. So it's just the energy of sort of when you get to the king level of the tarot pack. And to have Warden of Daggers, which is like the King of Swords, and Warden of Wands, which is like the King of Wands, I think that Mars is talking about this skill level. I think Mars is saying, that's fine, you can go back to first principles, but don't doubt that you are further along the path. Don't doubt that you're meant to lead. Don't, in the process of doing that and mending your heart and so forth, somehow give up on things that you could resolve. I think both of them think that you can resolve whatever this is by getting back to the basics and so forth. But Mars is saying you've got a hell of a lot of skill. You're really developed. There's a lot of charisma around you. There's a lot of intellectual savvy around you. And remember that Venus is saying, yes, it's the planning and the intellectual side of things that is really important to this. Your heart's very much turned on, it always will be. But your mind is the thing where you're going to be able to use the skill energy. And Mars is saying, like, you know, I'm really ambitious for you around this because you are really, really advanced and you deserve to be recognized for this. If there's something that's occurred that you haven't been recognized, then Mars wants you to get out there and just be in love with the concept of it again, with the joy and so forth. He does say that there is a lot of communication that you're going to need to do to find these people. So they're both agreeing that there are people who are right for you, whether it's in a love relationship, community, cause, they are there. But the thing, you need to go on the journey of communication. You need to come back out swinging, not necessarily in a fighting way that Mars might say, but in a very, very confident way. He wants you to understand how skilled and how developed you are in whatever this is. So, okay, so he's a little bit more get out there and do it, whereas Venus is a little bit more kind of do a bit of planning. So let's see what Spirit would say in terms of moderating these two messages for you. So Spirit is saying that there are other parties involved in this. So I think in a way, Spirit is tilting towards Venus just a little bit because Venus is sort of like simplifying and working it out. We've got the Chancellor of Wands, which is like the Queen of Wands reversed, and we've got the Knight of Crystals, which is like the Knight of Pentacles reversed. This does look like, for most of you, this is like in a workplace or on a career or a business or something. And I think that Spirit is saying there are other parties involved in this that are a bit competitive and aren't necessarily on the same page. But once you have worked out and cut through that, they're all agreeing, Spirit, Venus and Mars are all agreeing that your thought processes and your philosophy and what you're really trying to do, once you cut through with that, you'll move very quickly away from that. It will help you make the cuts that you need to make and to get back to what you were trying to achieve. So, and if you need to surprise people a bit, because the Knight of Daggers or Knight of Swords always has a bit of an element of surprise, then do it. But understand the environment, understand the other people involved, because there is quite a bit of ego involved and there may be a resource implications. That's why I think Venus is saying sort of get back to first principles, so you're very clear on what you're doing, and then Mars is saying yes, and then recognize your skill, and then you can move forward. But it's not just down to you. There's something about other people in the environment that's impacting this. Okay, so let's see whether we can get from them a little bit more clarity on various aspects of your life. So we're going to use the Heart Code Oracles, and we're going to have a card from the relationship, the career, and then the lifestyle deck. So something that Venus wants to say to you about this, something that Mars wants to say to you about it. So in terms of relationships, Venus wants you to concentrate or be aware of reaching out. So yes, I think Venus is saying there's people, and I actually think Mars is agreeing. Once you've clarified what you want to do and how you want to mend whatever this was and get back to the sort of real true nature of it, reaching out to others, finding the people, because there are people that are no longer good for your environment or what you're trying to do. Okay, and what does Mars want you to do around relationships? Assumption. Okay, Mars doesn't want you to make any assumptions about the people around you. Really go forward with what you believe and let that kind of sort itself out. So this is where they're kind of arguing with each other a bit. But I do think you can marry the two. I think if you take Venus's advice about getting back to first principles, so you're very clear on what you want to do, then you do have the skill, and you can assume that you have the skill and move forward. And a lot of this falls away once you sort of trigger the Knight of Swords energy there. Okay, since I think many of you, they're talking about something around career or business or something material, let's see what they have to say about career. So Venus is, you have some inner conflict around this. So that may also be why she's saying get back to first principles. It might be that whatever this battle or this competition has been, that's why you get back to nature, back to who you are. There's been maybe a sort of maybe you're in an environment where you care about the sort of natural world, the environment, or others, with all that compassion, and you're in a career where maybe it's about the bottom line. So there's an inner conflict, and for you to be able to move forward and be either in that environment or move into one that's more natural to you, you need to recognize there's an inner conflict operating for you. You may well be very successful, actually, with what Mars has said here. You may be very successful in this environment, but it may not be true to your nature in some way. Let's see what Mars has to say about career. He says mindset. So again, assumptions. He thinks it's all... it's all in your mind, like you're crazy or something. He's not saying that. He's just saying that if you shift your opinion, you shift your view, you shift your intellectual approach to this, you shift everything. You have the skill. That's what he keeps saying. You have the skill to do what you need. You just need to shift your own viewpoint around this in some way. Okay, let's see what they want to say about lifestyle. So Venus is talking about there's a solution. I think that's why right at the beginning there was that sense of get back to nature. I think that Venus is saying that even within your lifestyle, with how you live your life, with who you are as a natural being, that's the solution. Getting the balance. That's why they're saying go back to first principles. Like live what it is that you want to create in the world, that you are a living solution in a way for whatever this issue is. And Mars wants you to think about releasing anything that isn't working and mending that broken heart, like not getting held back, not starting to self-doubt. Release the things in your life that are no longer true and natural to you. So this is where they're in agreement. They're quite strongly in agreement, I think, about lifestyle impacts. Okay, so let's try and mediate between the two with a bit of astrology. Let's see some astrology energy around the more practical side of all of this for you. Full moon. And we have fire and square. So we'll have a look at what those planets are. But firstly, this is suggesting, again, full moon, letting something go, like you've reaped the harvest, you've got that, it's time to sort of go back to first principles. So certainly astrologically that connects to what Venus is saying. But you do need the fire, the passion and the drive of Mars. I think it's suggesting to some degree, Pile 2, that your degree of compassion may sometimes overrule your own sense of self-empowerment and ambition, and that it's somehow, if you get back to first principles about who you are naturally and you promote that, that's how you can marry those two things together. You can get the fire because to you then it appears worthy. It's almost like you've been in an environment maybe where the skills that you have, it's almost you feel it's unworthy to use them. You need to get back to who you are and see that as your self-expression and so forth, and take the fiery energy through. There is some tension that you are trying to sort out. Now this could be within yourself with the inner conflict, or it could be around the environment you're in. We'll just see what planets are involved in that. So I'm just going to deal out until I get planets from this deck. Jupiter and the moon. Okay, this is very much issues that are coming up around the Venusian side of this, because this is about emotions, this is about caring for others, this is about all those sorts of drives that you have in your generous spirit. And because of that, sometimes your generosity and your caring for others actually is in opposition to your own emotional needs. So I think this is why Venus is saying compassion for yourself. I very much got the sense that you're naturally compassionate for anybody with two Kuan Yins, but you need compassion for yourself as well, because you have a tendency to let Jupiter rule over the moon here, let the sort of like philanthropic sort of cause stuff get in the way of your own feeling. Okay, so we're also going to roll the Astro Dice a couple of times for some other ideas about where these sort of energies should be operating in your life. So we have the 5th house. So this is around creativity and romance. We have Venus, which is around love, and we have Sagittarius, which is about freedom to be who you are and so forth. For some of you, this could be about a relationship, though I feel for most of you it's not. So I suspect because it doesn't feel personal in that way. It feels more about recalibrating who you are in the world. So I suspect the 5th house here is more around creativity and so forth. For some, I'm also getting to, with Venus there, this is also the house of children. So there may be a sort of issue around reclaiming yourself after children have grown up or something like that. And what does love mean to you, and what does your sort of vision for the world mean? So there could be that sort of thing, which is also going back to first principles and moving forward. Okay, one more roll of the dice. And we have the 4th house, which is who you are at your base. We have Uranus and we have Pisces. You will get some sort of major insight about this. It is really about who you are at a core. It could also be a major change in where you live. It may be with Uranus there, with the 4th house, you may change where you live. You may travel or something like that to find the outcome. In any case, it is going to connect you back more and more to your compassionate nature. I'm getting for some of you, the change that you do will make you feel more at home in yourself. Okay, so let's finish up with just a little bit of spiritual advice and then the Astro Chakra card. So firstly, we're going to ask what might need to be healed within you to help with this sort of balance that Venus and Mars are talking to you about. So self-love, absolutely. There is something about caring for yourself and not selling out. Okay, all right. So I do think many of you, you've been in an environment, you've been doing something where you feel like it's not in line with your values. This is part of going back to first principles and knowing with your skill. Mars definitely wants you to know with your skill that you are too good to sell out. You will be able to do what you want to do. And reconnecting, Venus is saying, with your self-love will help you to understand that. But yes, he's saying do not sell yourself short. I think that's really the message here. He's being a bit stroppy, but I think that he has a really strong and good message for you. Let's look at the White Owl Mystic Arcana for some other spiritual advice for you. Crone, Virgo, Sagittarius again. So we had Sagittarius, I think, with one of the Astro Dice. So the Crone suggests to me that there's a great deal of wisdom. And I also feel that's very much going towards this earth-based sort of energy. I think there's a side of you that you're a bit of a support for the earth, for the environment in some way. There's a sort of a wisdom, an ancient wisdom, and do not doubt that. You're very grounded. You could be extremely good healer, actually. So some of this compassionate energy and sort of using the environmental energy. So if your sort of career is about healing, but you've been in an environment, for instance, that hasn't been about that, it's been more about the bottom line, you can move into something with your wisdom and your skill to do that. Either way, you can ground yourself And then you have the freedom of Sagittarius to be truly who you are and to take that more spiritual visionary thing. It's then I think it's Sagittarius and Aquarius operating together. Sagittarius is sort of very warm and philosophical and sort of almost religious. And then Aquarius has that kind of intellectual, kind of transpersonal thing that's how you connect those things together. But it works so well because you ground it with your wisdom. Okay, so let's just use the Astro Chakra cards for some final messages for you from Venus and Mars, pile 2. We've got the solar plexus chakra, the heart chakra, and the throat chakra. Okay, so firstly, with Uranus in the solar plexus chakra, it is saying there is something very individual and new and different about you. You are not meant to just fit in. This is, I really think for many of you, you've been in a much more conventional, corporate, profit-oriented environment, but you are more of a rebel. You are more of someone who will actually want to do things differently, and that's part of who you are. It's part of your power. It comes from a great deal of love. This is the compassion. To have Jupiter in the heart chakra with generosity, you will always be generous. It's just your nature. What you need to do is be able to communicate that more clearly in a way and in an environment that works for you. With the throat chakra, with Venus there, you need to be able to communicate a loving and caring thing. I just think that most of you have not been in the right environment. And Mars is agreeing over here saying, yeah, you can mend the broken heart, the disappointment of that. You have all the skills you need. Go out and do you. So I hope that resonates for you, pile 2. I hope it was helpful. I hope you enjoyed getting messages from Venus and Mars. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 3, to your reading. So these cards are Venus and these cards are Mars in terms of the sort of overarching themes that they want to talk about, and to get a sense about whether they're in agreement or whether they're having a bit of an argument about their advice for you. I think it's a little bit of both with this particular one. I think around Venus here, with ghosts of the past and with then authenticity and Archangel Azrael, which is about death and rebirth, I think that Venus wants to talk to you about you processing, whether it's old relationships, old connections, old friendships, so that you become more authentic to who you want to be. I think she is sort of gently saying that you have a tendency to find it hard to let go and to ruminate over the past and to think about, should I have done something differently, or was I right in that relationship, or was it the right relationship? And those ghosts of the past are still around you because you're trying to really sort out what was the price of being authentic in relationship. How do you do that in a way that is honorable and a way that is caring, so that those ghosts are not ones that are regrets. They are just something that passes through your life and you learn from, and so that you can go through the changes around relationships. So some of you may recently have left a relationship, but you're still haunted by it. Others, you may have that over a number of types of relationships in your life. But part of who you are, Venus is saying, part of who you authentically are is this sort of death, rebirth, transition, life changes thing. In fact, Venus is saying to you that once you crack the code of how you deal with the ghosts of the past, you're probably going to be able to help other people to do it. And some of you may do it in a career or something like that. You may already be doing it in a career, but then the irony would be, Venus would be saying you have a tendency still to hold on to your past while you might be actually helping other people move through it. I'm also getting that for some of you, it could be that you feel a little bit dismayed that somebody that you've been connected to has been able to move on so quickly, where you're still trying to deal with it on some level. But again, if that's the case, Venus is saying that you can also do that. It's just a decision. You need to make the decision to lay to rest the ghosts of the past, so to speak, and to move forward in who you are. And over here, Mars is saying, yeah, that's right, because the reality about you, Mars thinks, is that you shouldn't be stuck in the past. You're actually a clairvoyant. And with Hermes moving forward, a messenger, there's something deeply psychic about you, but it's forward thinking. And with Hathor, with celebration, rejuvenation, gratitude, it's about seeing the prospects and the opportunities. So I certainly feel that some of you, as I say, I got the sense looking at this, that some of you may work in a field where you help others, mentoring, coaching, therapy, and you're brilliant at it, like if that's the case, or if you want to do something like that, you'll be brilliant at it. But Mars is a little bit less patient with you about this, than Venus is, because Venus is going, that's fine, just let go of the ghosts of the past, go through your own death and rebirth, reconnect with your authenticity. And Mars is saying, yeah, kind of get on with it, because you are naturally someone of the future. And where you are going to be self-empowered, and where you are going to be able to meet your ambitions and find the right love and all of those sort of things, is in the very swift communication, brilliant, inspirational energy of Hermes or Mercury here, and your natural clairvoyant ability, with Hathor helping you to bring it into something that you would want, to kind of manifest what you want through seeing the future. So Venus is sort of saying, I'm trying to help you deal with the past, and Mars is kind of going, yeah, because I really want you to be thinking about the future. So they're kind of agreeing, but Venus is a little bit more compassionate, I think. Mars is a little bit more, you've got all this stuff, just get on with it. So let's see what the archetype and alchemy between the two messages are for you. Okay, so in Venus we've got reunion, that's interesting. And in Mars we've got vampire. Okay, all right. And then in terms of, we got the scientist and the artist. Okay, so that's interesting, the way they fell, and this is sort of like intentionally, the cards are pulled intuitively. I don't know what they are, but where they fell is, this is kind of Venus's side and this is sort of Mars's side. So I think there's two layers on which this could be working, and it could be working for you in both, or it could be that it's one or the other, because this is a collective reading. Certainly there is an issue where there is something about a relationship. It may be that what's going on here is that this goes to the past. Some of you are still yearning for a reunion with someone, with bringing it back together, for it to be death and then rebirth of that relationship. And I think Venus isn't necessarily saying you couldn't do that, but it is about rebirth. It's not the ghost of the past. If a reunion happened, it needs to be authentic. It needs to be something that is true to you, and not just a rehash, not just a rerun. Mars is a little bit more cynical about it, I've got to say. Mars is sort of saying, look, this sort of holding on to the past can be a bit like having a vampire around. It sort of like sucks the energy out of you, basically. It sucks the lifeblood out of you. So don't get obsessive about it, because you have far too much sight and far too much sort of energy to move forward, to just get kind of stuck and held back by some very intense but problematic, potentially, or very challenging relationship. So it makes sense that Mars would be more about what's the impact of this, whereas Venus would be more how are you feeling and how do you settle in your heart. Now, the thing that's good, I think, in the balance of this, is that more generally, if it's about something sort of creative and career, or if it's even in the way of dealing with this relationship, Venus is saying, look, I do kind of get what Mars is saying in a way with the scientist here. There is actually a logic to some of this, and that's partly how you can let go of it. It's like assessing it from a logical point of view. Is it going to be just a rehash, or is it going to be something that is truly reborn? Have almost a scientific approach to it. Don't just sort of sit in your heart, because your heart is just going to want to see the beautiful reunion. It's not necessarily going to see all the detail. So have a look at the detail. And you have that capacity because you have clairvoyance, you have inner sight, you have a very, very sharp mind. So she's saying, yeah, Mars has got a point, but take a scientific viewpoint about this. And Mars is going, yeah, look, good, I agree. And the other side of it is that some of this is also about the art of your life, the artist, the call of what is passionate. So if this is going to be more like that, and you can take it to something where it becomes something that you are the artist of this relationship, then that's fine. But use your ability for looking at the consequences of things to work out whether or not this is the case. And if it is around sort of career, authenticity, that kind of thing, then Mars is saying definitely you need to sort of look at the creative side of things, not just the ideas, but also the execution. And Venus is saying, yes, to really make something sort of be revitalized and move forward, you also need to look at the execution as well as the art. So they're kind of agreeing with each other, except that I think that Mars sort of wants this to happen at a faster pace. Okay, so let's see what Tarot has to say. So we're firstly going to get Venus to talk to you through Tarot with her viewpoint on all of this, and then we will ask Mars to talk to you with his viewpoint, and then we'll ask Spirit to mediate or synthesize, depending upon what is necessary after they've both had their say. So Venus says, Venus is saying you might be a bit stuck. She really does want you to think about this. Why the scientist has turned up. She wants you to lay to rest some things from the past, and they may be quite long-standing things of the past. With the Six of Cups reversed, it could in fact be some idea you had about relationships or creativity or whatever it is that this is talking about from very young age, but it's no longer working for you. What it does is it holds you back creatively, certainly with the Knight of Wands reversed, but also in terms of passion, love, and all of those sort of things. And I'm sure Mars would agree, because that kind of Knight of Wands being reversed would not be an energy that Mars would feel very comfortable with holding back on the passions and so forth. There's a conflict you do need to resolve. Venus is saying it's less of a conflict than you think. And it could be less of a conflict because you could just move on from this and find what is right for you. Or it could be that there is some capacity, once you've really thought it through, to revive this and make it something different. What she is saying, however, is you have to look at the heart of this, which is around a power struggle. So if you can, at the moment, what has been happening around the relationship, around your creativity, is that your authenticity, which is what she wants you to think about with Baba Yaga, is being suppressed with the Queen of Wands reversed. There's something in this environment where you don't feel like you can be totally you, not if you are to get whatever it is that you at this point in time sort of yearning for from the past. But there's issues around power with the Emperor reversed. It's like this is an imbalanced relationship or an imbalanced workplace or whatever it is. And you do need to go through the conflict. It's not going to be as major as you might think. As I say, either because you'll just do it and go, okay, I'm moving on, or because you can resolve it. But it's almost like it's happened because of the romantic side of you or the caring side of you. You've kind of ceded some ground. And she says you do need to think about that. So there's a degree to which Mars is right, but you do need to go internally to look at this, to work out who you are authentically. So let's see what Mars has to say. Okay. So Mars, again, is being a bit impatient. With the Ace of Swords reversed, he just wants you to kind of make a decision and move and to trust your kind of clear seeing. He says that you are very, very attractive, very vibrant, all of those sort of things. And that is part of who you are authentically. And if this has been dimmed a bit, then that's sort of like you just make the decision. But he feels like you prevaricate on making a decision about how this looks in your life, as I say, whether it's career or romance or whatever. So he wants you to kind of just face it. And he wants you to face it sort of intellectually, because he puts a lot of store by your intellectual prowess. Whereas I think that Venus sort of goes, I kind of get that you could do that, but you're also going to then feel some form of a battle and some sort of self-esteem issues. So she's a little bit more gentle around how to do it. He just wants to get back to the basics and do it. And to break out of something that feels conventional or something that feels like, well, I'll have this because it's better than nothing. So if there is a reunion, it could be kind of a relationship that keeps coming back. And he's getting a little bit impatient, I have to say. He says you've got the wisdom now. If you keep doing this, because the Fool, when it is the right way up, is starting a new journey. When it's reversed, it's kind of like you're going to kind of keep doing the same thing, or do you now have the wisdom and the pragmatism to move on and do something else? So I just think he's so forward-thinking, and he thinks you're so forward-thinking, and he really admires that in you. He just wants you to make a decision and get on with it. So he's being pretty consistent in what he's saying. Whereas I think, as I say, I think Venus is being consistent, but she's being a bit more gentle, which probably isn't surprising, really, given the energies. But let's see what Spirit has to say in mediating between these two sets of advice. Okay, so I think Spirit's got a pretty strong view on this, to be honest. Spirit wants you to take control of your fortune. So that degree, they're really tilting towards Mars and saying your clairvoyance, your capacity to see what's coming, the wheel of time, the wheel of fortune, pay attention to that. Do not deny that. And I think that they are saying, really, for most people who've come here, there is just a kind of diminution of love and happiness and kind of return on investment in the situation that you're in. That just over and over and over with this thing is not going to help you. It really, it doesn't necessarily say that you couldn't couldn't sort of do a reunion and make it work, but it really needs to fundamentally shift. And Spirit is definitely saying you need to listen to Mars here. You need to be looking at your clear thinking rather than your romantic sort of dream. It's really, what are you really seeing here? If you do that, you take control of the Wheel of Fortune. Possibly you can then make it work. But at the moment, you're kind of tilting towards Venus, Spirit is saying. And so you're not wanting to look at that. You're just wanting to hope to fate. And as a result, it's not really working out. So I think that Spirit's being a little bit on Mars's side here. Okay, so let's have a look at it in very practical terms in your life. So we're going to use the Heart Code Oracles, and we're going to see what Venus has to say and Mars has to say about relationships, career, and lifestyle, and how this impacts on this scenario. Pile 3. So Venus in relationships says harmony. Okay, so I think that Venus would say, number one, you do look for harmony. Maybe you need to be aware that sometimes you sacrifice yourself for that, but it's also maybe when you're thinking about what you see over here, if you're listening to your Spirit and Mars, is it possible to have harmony, or is this a really tempestuous relationship that is so intense and it's so kind of compelling, but it's always going to end up in arguments and so forth? Is it that kind of thing? Is it going to bring you the harmony that you want and the capacity, therefore, for you to be really true to yourself? Okay. And then Mars wants to say judgment. Okay, I think it's working on two levels. One, I think it just says your judgment is going to be spot on if you just really look at what you can see and you are open to what you can see, and trust that judgment. Don't let somebody else influence you. But I think he's also saying that you may have given the judgment power over to the other person or the other parties in this, if it's not about a love relationship. This power issue, you need to take back the power of judgment about, is this going to be something that works, not continually doing what the other party or parties are wanting you to do. Okay, so let's see what career energy. I do think for most of you this is more around a relationship, but let's see if this energy is in career, what they would want to say to you. So Venus says boundaries. Yeah. And it's interesting with vampire energy there. I think that Mars would very much agree with Venus about this, that you need boundaries around what you are doing, what you will give and so forth. So if any of this is around career or creativity, Venus is saying boundaries is one of the things you have to sort out, particularly if you're going to try something again. What does Mars say? Success. So Mars really believes in you with the Queen of Wands here. Mars says that you'll be fine in your career. You're so good. You're so far-seeing. Do not feel that you have to keep going over and over something that didn't work. Just move forward. Learn from it and move forward. You're meant to be successful. Okay, and in lifestyle, what does Venus want to say to you, Pile 3? Feedback. Okay, so I think, to be frank, because I do think that most of this is around sort of very strong personal relationships, probably love relationships. I think that Venus is saying maybe get feedback from your friends, from your family, or possibly from a therapist or something like that. There is a pattern that's going on here, and it's like you need to get that, even though Mars is probably right that if you just sort of looked at things very clearly and saw the consequences of things, which you naturally do in most things in life, it's like you need the feedback to give you the information to do that, because you've been blocking it to some degree because of the emotion involved in it. So what would Mars say about lifestyle? Cycle. Yeah, he'd say, look, this is a cycle and you've gotten a pattern. It's the same thing. They'd agree with each other about this. He'd say that, but there is also a cycle of death and rebirth, of rejuvenation and all that kind of thing. So believe in yourself that regardless of whatever you choose to do, even if it's leaving the thing in the past, you will be able to go into a new cycle. You have the ability to do that. Okay, so let's try and bring some of that energy together with astrology. Let's see the astrology energy that's around you at the moment, Pile 3, in terms of what Venus and Mars have wanted to talk to you about today. So 5th house, yeah. I think it's confirming that for most this is about romantic relationships. Fixed, yeah, are you a bit stubborn or fixed about these sort of things? And waning crescent, release control, release the energy. Now, I think this is pretty clear. they're both saying, I think, this is about, sort of, it could be about creativity as well, but romance, love, all of that kind of thing is where you kind of get a bit fixed and a bit stuck, and you need to kind of release and let things go. Let things be a cycle. Take some feedback, because then you will make the right decision about whatever this is. You really will, but you have to allow that to come in. You have to allow sort of almost the potentially bitter medicine to come in to clear the system. Okay, we're also going to roll the astro dice a couple of times to see what other astrological energy could help you. So we've got Leo, we've got Venus in Leo in the first house. So yeah, a bit of self-love's important here. With this power dynamic or whatever, and authenticity, you know, Leo is about putting yourself forward, sometimes putting yourself first. With Venus there, your love nature needs to do that in the first house. You need, your authenticity is important in this. I do feel most of you have kind of bent over backwards to fit in with somebody else's desires, somebody else's sort of ideas about relationships. You really need to kind of put yourself front and center again. And we have Neptune in the 5th house. So yeah, 5th house again. In Scorpio, yeah, this is the vampire energy. I do think that most of you, there's a very addictive, strange relationship around you. And you do need to get to the depths, the sort of forensic depths with Scorpio to work out whether this is right, because something isn't clear. So it's I really do think that if you come to the right reading, it's about a relationship. Definitely. All right, so let's see what you need to heal to help this situation. Beauty and temptation. Okay, so Venus wants to say to you, you are beautiful. Your authentic self is beautiful. Do not in any sense doubt that. Do not think that your sense of beauty and lovability depends upon this person and their caring for you. Do not let them give you your self-esteem. You are beautiful in yourself, and owning that is important. Whereas Mars over here is going, and don't get tempted, because they're a little bit charismatic and a little bit controlling. Don't get tempted by that. Really keep your eyes open, that to understand why you're making your choices. Then you're not going to get falling into the trap of the vampire. Okay, let's ask the White Owl Mystic Arcana for some other spiritual advice for you. Aries, Priestess, and Mercury. So there we've got Mercury twice, because we've got Mercury up there. So definitely communication. Mercury is important. Mercury may be very strong in your chart, and it may be when it's aspected strongly that you can really have breakthroughs. It certainly gives that brilliance of mind. You also have a very strong spiritual understanding, so pay attention to things like signs, synchronicities, your dreams. You have a very strong spiritual energy. But Aries here, because that's kind of, it's interesting, got Mercury in Aries, and then we have Aries is kind of connected to Aries and Mars. We have the Mercury there. I think that really listening to what Mars is saying here is important. You will balance it within with your spiritual knowledge and wisdom, but you really do need to start to stand up for yourself with your clarity of sight and your clairvoyance, because you are very, very powerful. I actually think one of the reasons that this person potentially is around you is because they sense that power and they almost want it for themselves, but it's your power, so don't let that happen. Okay, so to finish off, we're just going to use the Astro Chakra cards for a sort of synthesizing message for you, pile 3. Oops. We have the solar plexus chakra, and we have the solar plexus chakra. So this is very much about you taking back your own power and communication. Yeah, Mercury being important for all of that. So 2 solar plexus chakra cards suggest this is all about your self-empowerment, and we have Venus and the moon there. So the way that you love, the intensity of your love, relationships that are empowering rather than overpowering, and ones that are nurturing rather than demanding. Very important for you to move into that, and you will need to communicate with the moon what you feel to bring that about. So this is why Mercury is so strong over in the Mars side of things. The action you need to take is to voice your own feelings and to get enough information to make this decision, and to get that clarity that also your inner knowing, your priestess inner knowing is telling you. in whichever way it goes. But what it is definitely saying is that if the relationship or situation was to return, you need it to return on different terms and more on your terms. And that requires you to value your own sense of beauty and love more than possibly you have, pile 3. So I hope that is helpful. I hope it resonates for you. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 4, to your reading. So this is Venus talking to you at this point, and this is Mars. So we're going to look firstly at kind of the high-level themes, and then we're going to have a look at how that connects before we get them to talk directly through tarot. This is a very interesting set of cards. I think that this is either about something that's highly spiritual or something that's highly creative. In either case, I think they largely agree with each other. They just take a slightly different slant on things, which you would probably expect. What seems to be going on, and I think that Venus here is articulating the situation very well, and Mars is trying to articulate a timing around it and a solution in a sense. But with the card of the Faceless Ghost and the Haunted Girl, this card is about when you have great light, you have great wisdom, you have great ability in something, or you're very beautiful. So it could be around friends, it could be around career, it could be creativity. I think for many of you this is around career and creativity, but it could be either. And this is because you have with Archangel Christiel a very higher consciousness connection to the light, the celestial light. So you give that off. But in this particular card, someone like that who has great light and great ability draws to them people who are looking to almost fill themselves with that light. It's almost sort of vampiric in a way. But it's kind of also like the pretender to the throne. At its worst, it's like a kind of talented Mr. Ripley sort of situation with somebody coming and wanting to take on who you are. So you may be someone very much who has that happen as a general rule. I think Venus is saying there is something about your light, there's something about what you do that other people kind of emulate in some way. But in doing it, they also try to tell you they're the ones that were the architects of this and that they're further along the path than you, or they're more developed than you, or they're the experts. So they seem to be talking to her and telling her what to do. So the card comes up when people are drawn to you for something that you have that's intrinsic to you, but they kind of claim it. They mimic it, claim it, and then try to control you with it. So what I think that Venus is saying here, whether that's in a relationship where you're in a relationship with someone who's competitive with you, who love bombed you to start with and now is trying to be you rather than letting you be you and tell you how to do everything, or whether it is in a creative scenario or a career scenario where your light, your brilliance, your originality, your capacity with Gaia here to create and to bring into being things and to manifest there's a kind of a jealousy around it. Venus wants you to be aware of that. Venus wants you to know that if you have people in your ear telling you how to do whatever this is or be who you should be, you are your own creation and you're far more powerful and developed than the people who are doing this. So it could be frenemies that you're dealing with. As I say, it could be in a career, it could be in a relationship. But whatever it is, Venus is asking you to remember how far advanced you are. And for some, this could very much be around spiritual development. I'm certainly getting that for some of you, it could be in a spiritual group or something like that, and that you are actually further advanced than others, but they're trying to convince you, almost gaslight you into thinking the opposite. So one of those scenarios Venus is trying to talk to you about. And Mars is saying that's absolutely right. You are very advanced. Certainly with Horus, have clear seeing, potentially clairvoyance and so forth, a really, really good sort of perspective around what you're doing, real clarity. And they lack clarity. This is the point. You have the defined person here. They have the mask. So you have the clarity. You also, Mars is saying, have the inventiveness. This is why you're such a creative energy. You are original. You are the true original. These others are copies. I think that Mars is saying that there are potentially 3 people involved in this. This could be you and 2 others, or it could be that it's 3 other people that are trying to sort of like lord it over you in some sort of a group or in a workplace. The other thing with the 3 witchy sisters is that it's a card that says this is a pattern. So I do think that you're someone who draws this quite a bit, but you're learning about it. And I think that Venus is happy about that. And I think that Mars is trying to say, from that learning, you become more and more inventive and it's harder and harder to do. Because the pattern of the 3 witchy sisters says that something will happen 3 times. So if this is the first time you've dealt with it, you're going to have another couple of times of this happening before you fully come into your creation of yourself and your true inventiveness and in clear sight. If you've had it happen a couple of times before, it'll happen one more time. This is the third time, it's the last time you've really learnt the lesson. So this is a pattern that you're going to get because you are so inventive, so original, so creative, so attractive, whatever it might be. But you are learning, and Mars goes, that's great, because the more that you do that, the more that you get ahead of the pack. It's harder and harder for them to do. And Venus is saying, that's great, you're really starting to understand how you are your own creation. So this is very much an energy of dealing with competition, dealing with jealousy, dealing with, as I say, frenemies and wannabes and all that kind of energy. Let's see what the sort of alchemy archetypes between the two ideas about this are. So we have Lilith and caregiver, okay. And we have the alchemist and the rescuer. Okay, so this is interesting. I think Mars has some words for you, to be frank. Over here with Lilith, I think that this is really showing a lot of this is about jealousy, because and about suppressing the power of the true original, because Lilith was the first woman before Eve. So, and a great deal of power, but vilified often for that power and demonized. So there is a sort of sense here where that right back to the creation of you, there's something very, very strong and powerful higher consciousness that some people will try to control. But you are the alchemist. You are able to process through, see it for what it is, and move on. You are more advanced in whatever this is, creatively, spiritually, even in relationships or in just in the sense of self. You will be able to do it, but you have to kind of face the fact that that's happening, and it will happen as a pattern. Mars over here says some of it you could get rid of if you were just a little less of a caregiver and a rescuer. Because you are so creative, because you are so sort of shiny and bright and of the light, there is a side of you that kind of looks after people. And I think he wants you to think about how often you've done this before and what tended to happen with it. Because I think he's saying that it's fine to be a caregiver, if it doesn't become just a rescuer, because what you're wanting to do when you do caregiving is build within others the sort of sense of self that you have, not to constantly be the rescuer. But if you're constantly the rescuer, then you don't build that sense. The people stay as the maskless ones. And so you keep ending up with this cycle over and over. So he says, you know what? Some of this is kind of your fault. You don't mean harm with this, but you do need to recalibrate how you care for others, because you're very strong and self-actualized and you want other people to be able to do it. But it will bring strange responses to you. And you need to see that. You need to have more of the intention with Horus, more of the sort of wisdom around it, to use those really lovely qualities, but use them judiciously. He's a little bit concerned that you bring this on yourself by your caring nature. Okay, so let's see in more detail what they have to say. We'll use the tarot. So we'll firstly see what else Venus wants to say to you. Okay. So this is you. This is the light that you shine. She's saying like you shine a kind of innate joy, a kind of capacity to bring in the best in the world and so forth. Even when things are working against you, you still have that sense of light and higher consciousness and joy, and you attract people because of that. And you attract recognition. And this is where she's saying the issue can come, because sometimes the recognition comes from people who are not what they appear, who want to drain that energy or who want to compete with it. You have to be able to let go of the lost causes. You have to be able to recognize them better. You have to be able to have the perspective to see that quicker. You're a little bit stubborn. This caregiver person wants to resolve the situation. And maybe you want to prove yourself. Maybe if people are kind of like digging away at your self-esteem and what you do. If you draw people in who start with love bombing, for instance, if you're talking about a narcissistic situation, then what can happen is that when it gets to the devaluing stage where the narcissist starts to devalue you, you can hang on and hang on and hang on and try and win the argument and try and get back to that sense of being recognized. But there are energies around you and people that you attract who are a bit too hollow for that and are not going to be honest about it. They're not going to be honest with themselves and they're not going to be honest with you. And Venus is saying when you see that, you need to let it go, because otherwise it does become a pattern. You need to learn from it. But Venus thinks you can. You are your own creation. You are very strong. You have a higher consciousness and you will retain your light in this. It's not that they can dim it, just like ultimately Lilith's power couldn't be dimmed. It's just that it can put you in a bit of a cycle of always, questioning yourself when in fact you don't need to. And that's the mechanism they're using. They're making you question yourself. Okay, so let's see what Mars has to say. Okay, so I do think, and this would be typical, Mars really is a little bit more impatient to get on with things. It's just his nature. He certainly wants you to move forward. He certainly wants you to be happy. He wants you to be the sort of vibrant, charismatic, attractive, creative person that you are, and just to get on with it, and to keep moving, don't get slowed down. But he does accept that there's something about this that has actually taken a lot of energy away from you and that you need to transform and transmute that energy. So he is saying, look, I'd normally say just get on with it, and eventually I'm going to be urging you to do that. But to start with, just give yourself a bit of time out to contemplate this, because your strength has been sapped, and it's been sapped, whether it's consciously, deliberately by these other people, or whether it's just their nature. Either way that has occurred, it has put you out of balance. And this is, again, I think why he's brought up the three witchy sisters, because he's saying there's a pattern that could set in here. You can potentially, even if this is the first time, if you fully understand it, rest and move on and don't let it happen again, you could maybe break the spell of it happening 3 times. So he's saying a little bit of contemplation first before you move is probably a good thing, and getting your energy back because it has been sapped. And it's also because if you've been busy looking after everybody else, you haven't been replenishing your own batteries. You haven't had that imbalance. So he really wants you to think about that. He wants you to think about not over sort of extending yourself. Give yourself the rest to sort of change, and then you can move forward, because there's something very creative, vibrant, beautiful, light that you can bring to the world. Okay, so let's see what Spirit says mediating between the two of them. And I actually don't think they're much in argument, really. I think they kind of agree with each other about this, but let's see what Spirit has to say. Yeah, so I think Spirit is agreeing, this is about you coming into your own power. It's interesting. I feel like Gaia is a bit like the Empress, and then we have the Emperor here. So Venus is certainly saying, it kind of marries the two. It's sort of like the divine masculine and the divine feminine. This is definitely saying that it's a little bit tilted towards the divine feminine at the moment. So sort of also bring out the divine masculine. Make sure that you are being true to yourself and you have your own authority and power. That's just a choice you can make. And that will relieve, Spirit is saying, some of the internal conflict that you're feeling at the moment. You know that this is jamming the frequency. There's sort of this opinions that you're getting from everybody is jamming the frequency for you. But you know it. And once you really see it and know it, and you know that you're clever enough, you'll be able to make the choices to sort of regain your power. So I think they both really back you in being able to do this, but it is understanding there's been a lot of gaslighting, mind games and stuff around, and Spirit's agreeing that as well too. You need to reclaim your power in this situation. Okay, so let's get into some of the practical aspects. We're going to use the Heart Code Oracles. We're going to have something about love, career and lifestyle from Venus and also from Mars, just to sort of see what they'd say about those aspects in your life, pile 4. So in terms of love and relationships, Venus is saying disconnected. I actually think that has a double meaning. I think that Venus is saying that at the moment some of the relationships around you are disconnecting you from yourself because they're in your ear all the time. I think it's also saying that there are some you need to disconnect from, and you will know what those ones are. This is also agreeing with Mars, you need some time out, some alone time to sort of sort this out. So Mars wants to say to you in relation to relationships, realization. Yeah, it's like it's just a matter of knowing it and then it won't happen again. It's a matter of seeing it. I think what this is really saying, because I think a lot of this is about relationship, is once you see the pattern, you'll recognize it. That's why I think you can break the three witchy sisters. That's why I think Mars is saying once you have that realization, you won't get fooled again, sort of is the concept. And I don't mean you've been fooled, but I think you'll understand, what sort of things are said and how it's said and how it operates. Normally, if you've been through, for instance, a narcissistic relationship, and there's a feeling around this for some of you, I have to say, that you might be dealing with that, you'll see it when it happens again, because you'll know the patterns, you'll know how it feels, you'll know what they say, and so forth. Let's see how this is impacting on career, or potentially study if you're still studying. So Venus wants to say to you in that sort of area of your life, perseverance. So if any of this is in your workplace and this is people trying to take your ideas or steal your thunder, just keep going through. Ultimately, you're meant to be the leader. Ultimately, you're meant to shine, and that will come through. Just persevere. So it's certainly saying in disconnection, don't necessarily get up and leave a workplace if this is happening in a workplace. Persevere, because you will win out, but you may need to disconnect from some of your connections and supposed friends if they're more frenemies in a workplace. Let's see what Mars wants to say about the workplace or about careers for you. He's saying reduction. So I think that's the take the time out. I think that for those that this is relating to some sort of career creative conflict and competition, you need to sort of reduce your energy there to take the time out and reduce doing things for other people. If that's what this is, if it's not in a relationship, it's in career, then stop looking after everybody else. Reduce things back to first principles, so you're working for yourself, even if you're in an organisation, that you are front and centre. Okay, let's look at lifestyle. So what does Venus want to point out around lifestyle for you? Criticism. Okay. So I think that she says that people can use criticism to try and control your lifestyle. This is part of the gaslighting. There's definitely gaslighting and that sort of thing going on around you. So don't let the criticism get into you. And equally, you don't have to become critical overtly with these people. You just need to recognise it. It's sort of like, don't make... It is actually saying, in a way, once you've sort of seen this, don't think every time you see any kind of behaviour it's that. Look for the pattern of behaviours. So don't either become hypercritical yourself because of what you've gone through, and don't give the power of criticism to other people. Okay, and what does Mars want to say to you? Challenge. See, Mars does want you to kind of take this on and move through it. Mars has understood and accepted and conceded to Venus that you need a bit of time out, but then you need to sort of fight for your position and your power, because you deserve it. Like, whether it's a creative project, whether it's at work, whether it's a relationship, you deserve to have your own sense of authority and mastery and success. That's what you're meant to have. Okay, so let's have a look at some astrology energy around this scenario, pile 4. Oops. Okay, Pluto, that doesn't surprise me. Very strong, intense energy. Second house. Yeah, I think a lot of this could be in sort of career, or if it's in a relationship, it has to do also with your values and who is in control of the possessions and the purse strings and all that kind of thing. And the third house, and it's about how you communicate. Big changes. Big changes are needed around what is yours, what you can own, what you can say is yours, what you value, and how you communicate in the world. You have everything you need to do it. Pluto is a very powerful planet, but you do need to see what needs to shift and what needs to transmute and so forth to bring your light back. This is a very transformative period for you that's going to impact on your money, possessions, communication, how you're seen in the world. Okay, so we'll also use the astro dice to see what other astrological information Venus and Mars wants to point out to you. So we have the sun, which is about your life path in the 8th house. So yeah, this is the intensity of what we're talking about. This is the very Plutonian thing with Cancer. I think that it is saying that there is a kind of, well, there's two things coming out of this actually. One is that there's a self-protective mechanism you have that may bring about some of this subterranean stuff and may get in the way of your life path. So So owning your own power and recognizing it and how deep and profound it is will help you. The other thing too is this is showing part of your life path is caring for other people, often around very intense scenarios. So it is about balancing it. Mars is right that sometimes you give the care to the wrong people, but there is something about that in what you do. So it's getting that balance right. And it could be that you're in a nurturing role with Gaia turning up there. You know, some of this may be around child rearing and people's views about how you should do it and so forth. And then we'll roll one more time and we get the moon. So that's about emotions, Gemini, and the 5th house. Yeah, so this picks up where it's about a relationship. There could be some, Gemini can be a fantastic sign and can be great communication, witty, fun and all that thing. Can also be a little bit two-faced sometimes, and with the moon in the 5th house with some of this, make sure that you are getting honesty and clarity in any sort of romance that you have, because if you start to see these patterns, then there's something going on, and it is mind games with Gemini. Okay, so let's ask what you need to heal to help process this advice. Family and tribe. Victim consciousness. Okay, so Venus is saying that some of this is about where you feel you belong. And you need, I mean, whether it's from family patterns, whether it's just from finding your own tribe, and certainly finding your own tribe, finding the people that can appreciate your light and meet your level of light and not compete with it is important. But some of you may be holding on to tribes, families or whatever and dimming your light for that reason. So I think there's something around belonging that Venus wants you to think about. Mars doesn't want you to get into a victim consciousness. That's why Mars is impatient to get you moving forward. Mars is saying you have the capacity, the skill, the communication to deal with this. Do not feel stuck. Do not allow yourself to be stuck. Some of you may have been dealing literally with being victimized consciously or unconsciously. But Mars doesn't want you to stick in that position. It wants you to sort of move through it. That needs to be healed because, in fact, it could connect to your caregiving and so forth. And there might be a part where you also see others as victims and you feel you always have to look after them. There could be relationships around you where part of that energy of sort of getting in your ear is actually people telling you you're victimizing them and you've got to always accede to their emotional needs. People who will tell you that they're so sensitive. How could you bring that clarity to something? How could you say that? So there are kind of passive-aggressive type of energies that can happen when people are victimizing you, and usually they'll project and say that you're doing it to them. So I think Mars just wants you to own your own power, not to fall into victim consciousness or be manipulated by those who are claiming to be a victim. Okay, so let's see what the White Owl Mystic Arcana cards have to tell you in terms of spiritual advice. Priestess, November Moon, and Metatron's Cube. Okay, so November Moon is all about really assessing things at deep level, that sort of 8th house level that we talked about with the Astro dice, and working out what you need to release, what isn't working. It's a time of inner contemplation and renewal and so forth, having done that. You do have a very strong psychic sort of connection and so forth and to the light, so to trust the energy that you get intuitively there and what gets downloaded possibly to you, I think, in dreams or in meditations. With Metatron's Cube, that suggests a high-level connection to Keter in the Kabbalah, so the highest level of the divine consciousness. Metatron is also the scribe of God, and so there is a thing here about writing your own narrative, not letting others write it for you. Okay, so to bring it all together, just some final messages, pile 4, from the Astro Chakra cards. The 6th chakra, the 3rd eye chakra, the crown chakra, that doesn't surprise me with these, don't surprise me with Priestess and Metatron's Cube. Some of your light comes from very high order spiritual abilities. And then communication, okay, so the throat chakra. So firstly, this time out that Mars says to have, to contemplate, and that kind of sense of who you are and connecting to your light that Venus is talking about. In terms of the 3rd eye chakra, you are quite telepathic and probably very empathic. There is a degree with Uranus here where you need to detach a bit. It's like you are too empathic. It's like you are too caring. And you really do connect to people, but it's like you're taking on too much. So I think that that's one of the things, like detaching when you need to, when it's not good energy and it's not energy that you can help, it's just energy that likes being stuck, then you need to detach from it. You can connect through that transformative energy that you have and who you are as a life path with that, through connecting, say, to Metatron, to your priestess energy, all of that sort of thing. You're meant to rise. Your light is meant to rise. It's not meant to be kept down by this sort of petty competition and narcissism and all that kind of energy. And that will lead you to use your throat chakra to communicate what you really feel and to get more authentic connections in relationships or in friendships or whatever it might be. But the core comes from your light. Your light is what's drawn this energy to you. It's also the thing that will release you, and both agree on this. So I hope that that resonates for you, Powerful. I hope it was helpful and you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.